Hey, it's Erin. Welcome back to the road to the Bikini Olympia. We've got a change in scenery this week. I'm in the kitchen and I wanted to take you through a couple of recipes that I commonly use for my meal prep. And I also wanted to talk you through what's going on this week with contest prep. So I am 3 weeks out from the Bikini Olympia, back on track, feeling good, and just looking to continue this streak right up until showtime. So my goal this year, I really am shooting for top 10. Obviously, it's out of my hands, but I'm doing the best that I can in order to present as well on stage as I can. Now for the recipes this week, I've got 2 pounds of ground venison, and I've got this really great, super easy spice mix that I'm gonna go ahead and add to the venison, and we're just gonna cook some jasmine rice. Meal prep is incredibly important, and this is whether you compete or not. Having something healthy in the fridge to reach for can be super helpful. When you get hungry, you can either have a snack or Uber Eats or go get takeout, or you can just grab something healthy from your fridge. Not that there's anything wrong with the other options, but I think choosing your healthier options most of the time is gonna really set you up for success. So we're gonna continue talking. I'm just gonna set the burner here to about medium heat. And the goal here is to brown this venison before I add the spice mix to it. Now, as far as prep goes, contest prep that is, weight this week is 130 pounds. So I'm down just a little bit. I've adjusted the macros. I'm at 150 grams of protein, 30 grams of fat. So I was at 40 last week. This week I'm at 30 and 170 grams of carbs. So I'm just under 1600 calories, about 1570 calories, still doing my 4 meals per day. And with that meal prep, I do really like to have fresh food. So I will do meal prep probably every 3 days. I don't typically like to do just the Sunday. I like to have leftovers that are not like 7 days old. And as far as the storage goes, what I will do, that was really loud, sorry. What I will typically do is I've got these big glass Tupperwares. I'll put the venison in one Tupperware and then I'll put the rice in the other Tupperware. And then I'll just go ahead and put the 2 foods together when it's time to eat, and then add my veggies or whatever else I might want to add to it. So as this is heating up, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of this avocado coconut spray. It's organic. I typically don't like to use regular cooking sprays. It's canola or olive oil for that matter, because the pan is gonna get so hot. We really need something that is a high smoke point. Your olive oil, your canola oil typically is a little bit of a lower smoke point and can turn toxic if you have the heat on too high. I'm just gonna give it is a non-stick pan, but I like to make sure that things don't stick. All right, so this venison is just 2 pounds of ground venison. It's from Silver Fern Farms and they're out of New Zealand. They often have sales. They ship very quickly. Everything is frozen, so you can just keep it in your freezer. Towards the end, I might give you guys a peek of the freezer so you can see just how incredibly stocked it is. And typically, I don't buy a lot of fresh meats because I just can't find them. Even in Tampa, super hard to find organic or grass-fed, non-conventionally farmed meats. So we have that. And then once that venison is browned, really important that you get a good brown or a good sear on your meats. This is really good for flavor. I have the mix here. Actually, I mean, it doesn't really look that delicious, but I have all of the ingredients here. I start with my guajillo chili powder. So I really like the guajillo. It is a nice mild chili. If you don't like that, you can use just a regular chili powder. So I've got regular chili powder. I've got the guajillo, and if I'm feeling pretty froggy, sometimes instead of the guajillo, I will do the gochujang or the Korean chili flakes. Those are good too. So you start with 2 tablespoons of the guajillo chili powder. Then I'm I'm gonna go ahead and do 1 teaspoon of the rest of the items, except for at the very end. So we've got a teaspoon of your red minced salt, great salt, and then we've got a teaspoon of garlic, a teaspoon of smoked paprika or paprika, teaspoon of onion powder, teaspoon of coriander, a teaspoon of cumin, and a half teaspoon of this guy, this oregano. And I'll put everything in the description below if you want to try it. But typically when you're looking at healthier foods, you want to add salt. You want to add some heat if you like heat, but think about adding acid. Something a little tangy can be really helpful. And we really want that brightness. We really want to impart a ton of flavor. Now with a lot of cooking that's higher calorie, that can come in the form of fat. And of course, there's nothing wrong with fat, but in order to keep the calories low, I typically go a more low-fat diet. So I'm gonna watch the amount of fat that I add and understand that to add flavor, I can't just throw a pat of butter in here, that I have to try to think of other ways. So your salt, your heat, your acid, those are really great, really great. And don't be afraid to spice things up because spices are calorie free. So trying to feel if the pan is hot. We are good. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the venison in here. And you want to hear that sear, that is perfect, or that sizzle. All right, so we're gonna give it probably 2 to 3 minutes on this side. And move a little bit closer so you can hear me over the, and give it a couple minutes. And then as soon as it's browned on both sides, I'm gonna go ahead and add the seasoning. So it's been a couple of minutes on both sides, and you can see there's really beautiful browning on this venison. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my trusty spatula and I'm gonna go ahead and just break this meat apart. So and you'll hear more sizzle, of course, as you're breaking it apart. But I want to increase that surface area and make plenty of room for that seasoning. Now the reason I don't break it apart when I first start cooking is because it is going to crowd the pan and it will not allow for a good browning. So now that we've got everything nice and browned, I'm gonna go ahead and take my seasoning mix and just kind of spread it throughout, making sure to get every last granule. I think that's my OCD kicking in. And then we're just gonna make sure that everything is well incorporated. And I'm just gonna toss a lid on it, turn the heat down to low, and let it simmer for about 20 to 30 minutes. And I find that with venison or elk or bison or any other meat that is pretty lean, if you do kind of like a slow cook on it, it's going to help to kind of make it more tender, right? So we're just gonna turn the heat down, and then we'll go ahead and get started on the rice. And I wanted to talk a little bit about mindset too. So going into this contest, this year has been very, very tough. The last actually 2 years have been pretty tough for me. And you know, I think I talked in the last video or the one before about opening up and being afraid. I think afraid is not the right word, but being hesitant to share what's going on in my life because I'm a private person. I'm more of an introvert. But that being said, I think it's important to understand or to know that there's a person behind the persona, if you will. So this last year especially has been really, really challenging. I was in a very bad relationship. Now, it was not physically abusive, but it was, it really turned my world upside down. I was isolated. I really was living with a tyrant, and I go back to self-esteem and valuing myself more, and I have always had issues growing up with low self-esteem, and it has always gotten me into trouble. So I think one word of advice to you is to really value yourself and to work on your self-esteem and your self-worth, and know that you are special, that you're important, and that you deserve the best. You deserve love, that you're worthy of love. And these were things that I didn't allow for myself, and I didn't value myself. And I just had, in the past, I just had the wrong people, allowed the wrong people in my life. So getting out of that relationship really helped me to get back on track. It helped with creativity. It helped get the people back in my life who I really cared about, who I was isolated from. Helps me get my business back on track, or in the process of getting back on track. But if you have a toxic person in your life, or you have toxic people in your life, it makes life exponentially harder. So if you can limit the time around toxic people, or eliminate them from your life if possible, it is going to make a world of difference. And going into this contest, hormone issues aside, which I think I'm in the clear now, everything is under control. The mindset part and the stress part, and just being able to have a sanctuary in your home, to be able to have a place where you can go to and have people in your life who you boost up and you're boosting up. I think that is really key. And this goes for contest prep or not. Even if you never plan to compete, be very careful about the people who you spend time with and who you allow into your inner circle and allow to, kind of take root into your life. Because if they're wrong, if they're toxic, they're definitely going to make life harder. And, we come up against so many obstacles in life, obstacles from the outside world, that if you have obstacles in your inside world, it just makes it almost impossible. You feel like you're Sisyphus, pushing that rock up a hill every single day, same old. So that's the main thing that has changed in the last 5 months, is that I've just been getting back to myself and getting back to being whole again, and not having someone who is constantly berating me or second guessing me or challenging me or isolating me. And I just can't say it enough, that just having good people in your life is really important. Now, I did get a question this past week about motivation and where I find motivation. And I think motivation is what's the word? It's an ephemeral thing, right? It comes and it goes. It's not something that's constant, not something we can rely upon. And so I'm not motivated. I have resolve, and resolve is more lasting. And it is something that I'm on a mission. I'm out to prove something to myself and to everyone else. I think that resolve is the key driver. It's something that, if you lack motivation, you always have this steely fire within you that is going to push you forward. And that's what I have relied upon. Switching divisions and going into a completely new category, and just my goal is to make history in bodybuilding, and I want to show what's possible at any age. I'll be 43 in February, which is crazy. I don't even want to think about it. It's kind of depressing when you think about it in terms of the number, I guess. But I'm excited to go against girls, a lot of whom are half my age, and show that age is just a number. And for every population, there are outliers. And why can't it be you? Why can't it be me? So these are just some of the things that go through my mind. And I don't know what's going to happen next year with competing. I don't know if I'm going to step on stage or if I'm going to retire. I hadn't thought about it too much. Obviously you can't compete forever, but if this is the last Olympia for me, I'm gonna make it count. So that's where I am this week. That's the goal. As far as training goes, I'm at 3 days per week for glutes, 2 heavy days, 1 pump day, and 1 upper body training day. And I've got my 2 hits, my high intensity, low impact. So I'm doing the bike, the stairs, the sled for my hit, and then I'm doing some metabolic stuff, doing some sleds once or twice a week, still getting a ton of steps in, and I'm averaging about 12,000 steps per day. So suit is all ready, the hair and makeup will be done in Vegas, and I'm gonna start the packing process. Now, if you do competitions, it can be really helpful to have a contest checklist. And this is just something that once you get that diet brain, as you get a little bit closer to show, your critical thinking skills, they go down the drain. So, or your in-memory, conversation, vocabulary, all of that stuff, the better you look, the worse you feel, and the less you're able to think. So I want to try to capitalize on the amount of brain power that I have right now and start packing early, and that way I won't forget anything, or hopefully won't forget too many things for Vegas. So this has been simmering for a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the rice. We're gonna change camera angles, see how that goes. All right, let's get started on this rice. So for this particular recipe, I've got 2 cups of jasmine rice, and I've got it right here in my trusty measuring cup. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this sieve and I'm gonna pour the rice into the sieve over the sink. And really important that you rinse your rice. Just rinse it with cold water. And what this does is it removes the excess starch, makes the rice taste a lot better. So you can pick up one of these sieves on Amazon, or just at your local kitchen supply place, or Target, or Walmart. It's very, very easy. And so yeah, you just rinse your rice really well. Now, typically with rice, you're looking at a 1-to-2 ratio. So if you have a cup of rice, you're gonna have, I think I just broke it. Did you hear that? All right, so today's lesson is don't be so rough on your kitchen equipment. Don't get, oh my goodness. So yeah, it broke. Don't get your sieve on Amazon is the lesson for today. All right, so we're just gonna keep going. And I'm gonna take this rinsed rice and I'm gonna go ahead and dump it right into my pan. And see if I can fix this. If not, it's going in the trash. And then with the measuring cup, I'm gonna go ahead and measure, since I did 2 cups of rice, I'm gonna do 4 cups of water. Turn that burner onto high. Let it get to a nice rolling boil. Now with a rolling boil, this is a boil that you can't stir through. So if you're seeing bubbles and you start to stir it and the bubbles go away, that's not a rolling boil. So you just want to make sure you get it hot enough to that rolling boil. Give it a good stir. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna drop the heat to low and you're just gonna simmer it for 20 minutes. So we're just gonna give it a couple of minutes for the water to start boiling. I'll be right back. We're back. And as you can see, the rice has reached a rolling boil. And what I typically will do here is I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off of this burner. And I have set this burner to simmer. And it can be easier if you have a couple of burners to do this, because this burner is gonna be very, very hot. So I'm gonna go ahead and place the lid on it, move it over to the smaller burner, simmer for 20 minutes. Really important that you just leave it. Don't touch it. Leave it for 20 minutes. and then set your timer for 10 minutes after that. Remove it off the heat. Just let it sit with the lid on for 10 minutes and then fluff it with a spoon and it's ready to eat. Super, super easy. So we're just gonna let everything sit and then I will include a quick clip of what the food looks like when it's done. Here's the finished product. Got the ground venison and the fluffy rice. Perfection. That's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. As always, if there's something specific that you'd like to see, please leave me a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the rest of your week is fantastic. I love you guys. Keep up the great work. Keep on training hard, y'all.